All of my colleagues have similar experiences. It's not just me.
Even in the UK, it's relatively unheard of that journalists end up in hospital, but that's happened on quite a few occasions in the last few years.
My colleague of mine obviously was shot dead, so you always have that in the back of your mind.
This person attacked me without having any knowledge of who I was as a person.
Nothing can really prepare you for comments like that.
You talk about racism or race and immediately get this massive backlash. Who do you think you are? What the hell are you doing here?
It has taken over my life and my children, my husband. So it is very difficult, and there are many moments that I think to myself, I hope it's worth it.
I think it's getting to the stage now where if we're doing lives in public after dark, where I would always err towards caution and ask for at least a producer to be with me or even a security person to be there just to watch my back. But it's just such a pity that 10 years ago we wouldn't have to think about this at all.
I was getting ready to go to air. I had my earpiece in. I could hear that we were on the weather, which meant that I would be the next story coming up for the top story for the regional news. And a gentleman walks past and asks what I'm doing. He's like, "Who do you work for?" I said, "We work for the BBC." And he got his drink, cup of hot chocolate, and threw it all over me.
During the middle of the pandemic, we were being spat at and things like that. People were being physically attacked. It's things like that that really do throw you and think, you know, how bad have things actually got?
The majority of Iranian journalists who are working outside Iran have accepted the fact that at some point they personally might be harassed or their family members inside the country might get into trouble. Earlier in 2020, I had a nervous breakdown and I couldn't go to work for 2 months, and I had to see therapists to deal with the PTSD. My father had been interrogated by the agents of the intelligence ministry. He was told that he should stop me from working for the BBC. His passport was confiscated. My mother's passport was confiscated, and they were under a travel ban for a year. On personal level, I've been receiving death threats, and not just against myself, but against my family members as well.
3:30 in the morning, I could hear this banging on the door. It was the police who had come to tell me that I was an imminent threat. For a couple of weeks, you find yourself, you know, before you do the school run, you jump in, don't jump in the car yet, kids, just wait till daddy checks, goes like, "That's okay, way you go, it's all right." Once you've had a few, you kind of think, there's probably nothing, it's probably just somebody trying to scare me. But just after I'd started at the Sunday World, you know, Martin O'Hagan was murdered. So you always have that in the back of your mind. You just never know for sure, you can't be certain.
BBC News, fake news, BBC News, fake news, with me tagged into it. And then it's got a picture of me with awful language.
As soon as you hit send or publish on a story, sometimes you feel a little bit like you're walking into an online gladiatorial arena, because the reception you can get is really quite hideous.
The level of discussion sort of rapidly sort of descends into sort of nastiness.
That person's hair, that person's outfit, the way that person speaks. It's not just about their journalism.
Every time I go on holiday, actually, they can see that I'm away or I'm having a good time. I tend to receive an influx of hate from Instagram accounts. A lot of these accounts, a lot of these troll accounts tend to do it when you are on holiday, when you are having fun. They want to take the excitement and happiness away. I remember when I first started being on air and someone questioned, once again, where I'm from, because I don't sound like I'm from this country.
It's clear there's a massive underrepresentation of ethnic minority journalists in the British media. You know, there are 8% minorities, but that figure doesn't tell the whole story, because those people will absolutely overwhelmingly be at the very junior levels of the British press. The Guardian carried out an analysis of below-the-line comments that 6 of the top 10 most abused writers were people of colour.
Whenever it's comments to do with the colour of your skin, it's not nice. It's really hurtful.
I think if you belong to a minority group or you're reporting on issues that affect minority groups, that can make one more susceptible, more vulnerable to receiving abuse and types of hate speech, especially online. And we've seen that time and time again.
I've no doubt that me being a woman elicits a higher level of abuse than I see targeted at male court reporters.
Members of the public will leap into shot, particularly with female reporters.
So, heckling, whether it's being chased after, called all sorts of words.
They posted a photo of my husband on a state news organization, and then the state television showed those as well, and they claimed that I'm not married to my husband. And again, that's a way to discredit our journalism by saying that, oh, these are corrupt women who are interested in Western liberal values and they're attacking our religious values. So being a woman means that you experience things that your male colleagues won't necessarily experience.
It really puts you off putting stuff online at all. So it actually has a chilling effect on the reporting that you do. Sometimes it stops you from going along to court because you feel like this case, for example, rape cases, I know exactly how this is going to go on Facebook. I know exactly what people are going to say about me. I would always, 10, 11 years ago, cover a full rape trial from beginning to end, in fact, from charge to end. Now, when somebody's charged with rape, unless they're a public figure, we don't tend to cover charging decisions, nor do we tend to cover the beginnings of rape trials, because people on social media have an opinion that we should not be naming defendants in rape cases. Now, if we're not covering rape trials, how can we ever see the process by which a jury returns a guilty verdict? How can we scrutinise our courtrooms? We can't, because we don't know why a jury's reached that verdict unless we're there reporting it. So you end up, in effect, with all these sex attacks, usually on women, crimes against women, not being properly covered by the regional press, and that is an absolute travesty.
The way I look at it is anybody working in any other job in any other sector of the world, would you accept this sort of behaviour? No. So why would it be acceptable in this job?
Journalists probably don't report sort of abuse or threats they might receive on a daily basis necessarily, because it is just expected. And when I say that out loud, I think that seems really, really sad, actually.
Somebody comes up to you and shouts in your face, or spits at you, or threatens you, then something needs to be done to stop that.
Having NUJ's support means that we don't feel alone. It feels like we see this job and everybody who's involved with it as an entity. We're in this together, and any sort of attack on one journalist, regardless of their nationality and which country they come from, is an attack on all of us. And it means that we will take stands together against what's happening.